Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be Nurgle led by Ridley facing off against the High Elves, who shall be helmed by Torreson here on the Imperial Ambush, and it does look like it's going to be a Noxbringer SE build for Nurgle. So the idea is, let's go ahead and break it down, is you get the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle, and he is going to be using Rancid Visitations, which is very, very standard. Usually if you're going to be doing an SE style, so with Nurgle using Noxbringer and a couple characters, you want to go Fleshy Abundance to heal, and then Rancid Visitations to get that Alpha Strike. Noxbringer is pretty good against High Elves because bolt throwers aren't the best at dealing with it. It can outrange the archers and it drains the ammunition off skirmishers, and it's a respectable enough fighter to get into melee with a big monster if it needs to. But yeah, you can drain ammo from skirmishers with its corrosive explosion here, and also against our Lothern Sea Guard and basic archers. Aside from that, going to be a couple units of Chaos Warriors, which are fine. You can go Grey Weapons, you go Shielded Warriors, they're both viable enough, as well as the Demon Spew. Now for the build here of Torreson, we do have two Illyrian Reaver archers here, which are going to be nice for getting up and grabbing the contested objective and just being annoying in general. Won't do a lot of damage against this Nurgle army, but will provide them with some agency on the battlefield. Now the heavy carry piece here is going to be Imric. So Imric, individually can beat any of these Nurgle characters one-on-one, but all three of those Nurgle characters with Rancid can certainly provide a bit of a threat to him, so we'll see how he's going to be able to handle this fighting. On the backside, we got Rangers, White Lines of Crace, and looks like the Keepers of the Flame. Interesting. Not bad. Keepers of the Flame do magic damage, so again, some of the Nurglite demons, they can do some work, and they also just have good holding against these type of characters also. The risk is that if they get focused by the Noxbringer or end up fighting some standard Great Weapons, they won't be having the best time in the world. Granted, they will win against the Nurgle Great Weapons with the exception of Chosen, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So Noxbringer shooting in, and it looks like the Noxbringer does miss a couple shots here, as that objective does remain in the clutches of the highest of the Elves. Imric thinking about charging in here. It looks like he's going to be dropping a breath attack most likely on the back of the Noxbringer, so he's going to get right overhead, and he's going to drop a fat old breath right there, and does melt about 15% damage off, and does also get the overcast damage. It wasn't his causing, of course, but overcast damage did go down to the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, who does get an overcasted Rancid, which does a bunch of damage, and Imric does start to get worn down a little bit here, as the objective is going to be flipping to the Plague God's Chosen. And there, look at the ammunition. So you see that orange bar being drained a little bit there, and you can see the effect, of course, so it destroys ammunition and lowers the armor as well. So Nurgle calling in Furies. You're going to be using Furies to try and chase down the skirmishers. Not a bad choice. Granted, I don't know. Yeah, you could chase these horsemen, but if the Furies chase the Reaver archers, they can be defended pretty easily by either a Cavalry call-in or an Illyrian Reaver call-in, for example, but we'll see how they're used here. Are the High Elves going to make a push and play a lane strategy, maybe go for objective 1 with Imric and ignore the side? Nurgle's character core here is pretty nasty and hard to deal with. You could perhaps move the Phoenix Guard over here. When the ammunition gets a little bit more sparse on the Noxbringer, you could move the Phoenix Guard over and they could do some good work against these characters. But with the ammo still active on the Noxbringer, I think it's going to be a little bit too dangerous to try and do that. So we'll see what they end up doing. On the backside, Nurgle saving up points, probably going to be saving up for the Rotting Riders, I would guess, or something very expensive. Maybe a Chosen of Nurgle Great Weapon. I mean, that would be actually not bad here, countering all of these infantry. Rangers moving up, White Lines of Crace moving up. The High Elf player is putting a lot of respect on the Noxbringer's name. Honestly, I think probably wouldn't be terrible to do an advance with the High Elf army. Like, there's a lot invested in the infantry here. I think it'd be worth it. It would have been worth it earlier on in the game to just move up and contest this objective and then use Imric to harry and occupy the Noxbringer with the skirmishers. We'll see what they end up doing here. But what are the call-ins going to be? Nurgle has 1,900 supplies. High Elves do have 1,300, so it's very much looking like a Fireborn versus the Rotting Riders kind of situation, or Rot Knight. We'll have to see what they do. Now, the Rangers will get beaten down pretty badly by Chaos Warriors of Nurgle. Chaos Warriors of Nurgle have 50 melee defense, and there are some Chosen that have those stat lines, right, of defense. And they will be able to just dominate the Rangers. They're high armor, they're high melee defense, the poison. It will be a very one-sided fight. However, the White Lines of Crace and the Phoenix Guard will trade much better, especially with Imric getting breath attacks down the side. That is what it's all freaking about. All right, so on the backside, we do see the Rotting Riders. No surprise there. And is it going to be a Fireborn call-in? It is going to be basic Reavers. Like I said, just using them to screen out the Furies isn't a bad idea. And those Furies are going to escape. Looks like they do squeak away there and are able to flee the scene. Still a lot of points for High Elves, though. They called in a Reaver. Is it going to be something big and scary, maybe like a Phoenix? That wouldn't be bad here. Nurgle's SE squad is frightening, but can be isolated. There are 3 of them, and they are separate entities, so if you can trap one of them, then Imric can go after the isolated units. Right now, it looks like Imric is going to be chasing down the Chaos Furies here. We have a very skirmish-heavy game on our hands, as both players are a little bit nervous to commit to the big fight. And now it looks like the Elves are going to read the writing on the wall and realize they can't win on just one objective, so they are going to be advancing up towards objective 1. Granted, they could wait longer if there was like an important call in there waiting for. Another thing they could be doing is advancing up to objective 1 here, and then when Nurgle abandons here, they immediately call in like 2 or 3 units to swarm objective 1 here. But Nurgle, preempting this, is going to be calling in some Nurglings as well as Marauders to make sure that objective doesn't flip. And yeah, the Fireborn. Okay, I called it. Still got it, baby. Fireborn versus Rotting Riders. Let's go. Pretty okay for both sides. Fireborn do fire damage, which is pretty sweet, and that does mitigate the healing, the passive healing here, whereas this, the regeneration, and also they're weak to fire too. So a very cost-effective trade for the High Elves here, as we are going to get a fight. Rotting Riders going to be charging downhill, and though they are anti-large fighters, they can still wreck infantry on a downhill charge especially. So the Rot Beasts have gotten in, and the Nurgle infantry will be coming in to give a little bit of love soon as well. Furies, where are they going to go? Not really too many great targets for them. Using Furies to chase the Reaver Archers and go after the Mage of Life here probably would be a good call. We do see a Ranger call in on the other side for the High Elves. Not a terrible idea. Nurglings and Marauders both get countered by Rangers, so we'll see how that fight goes. Could take a little bit of time, but now we do have a big pit fight on this objective as the Pure Main Company gets destroyed pretty badly. Breath attack from the Dragon. Not the best, not the worst. He's able to connect there, and the Fireborn get a bit of a surround here on Kha'Zix the Befouled as well as the Exalted Hero. So that's a decent little fight there. However, we do see the Rotting Riders coming in. Shield of Thorns and Regrowth on the Fireborn. Imric needs to get here right now. And Starlance is activated. He's going to be jumping in the fight here and knocking back some warriors. He definitely needs to be picking off some of these Rotting Rider models. And it looks like the Fireborn are giga-chatting it pretty hard despite fighting 2 characters and a 2,000 gold plus cav unit. They're fighting extremely well. Although the Rotting Riders look like they're going to be getting some healing support as well, the Fleshy Abundance. But since they're on fire, will mitigate the effectiveness of the healing. And Imric on his Star Dragon is also going to be a very devastating fighter as well here. So Rotting Riders probably going to fold and run soon-ish. Although we do see the Fleshy Abundance keeping them fighting, the Dragon Prince is going to be sitting over 1,000 value for sure. Yeah, they're up to 1,500 already, so not bad at all. The rest of the mainline fighting, White Lines of Grace versus Warriors, and the Phoenix Guard actually getting into melee versus the Noxbringer is very cost-effective for them. The Noxbringer is a demon, which means it has physical resist, so the magic damage and anti-large on the Keepers of the Flame here is going to be uber effective here against the Noxbringer. Back on the other side, we do see the Nurglite forces claiming a bit of a victory as the Fireborn are forced back here, so they do retreat. But that was honestly a really good performance from them, fighting 2 very powerful characters that cost about as much as they do, and also a very expensive cav unit that costs a lot more than them. It was overall a decent fight for the High Elves, and it looks like there is going to be an Earthblood situation as Imric gathering with the Fireborn maybe here. Although the Fireborn didn't hear no bell and are going to be moving back in. So fighting's very, very close. Nurgle's a little bit ahead on value. Both sides do have healing. And the Noxbringer getting lowered down to about 4,500 HP as the Phoenix Guard gets staggered, but do get back up, and now their Halberd attacks will be connecting. 200 HP, 300 HP right there, soon going to be sub 4,000 HP most likely. Rangers moving in to provide a little bit of buffering as Imric is going to be relocating himself over here. You know, having Imric go after the Noxbringer wouldn't be a bad idea, try and finish that off. Breath attacks from the side would also be very, very good here. We do see some Reavers in the high ground, cleaning up some Furies. And let's look at the side point. The side point actually going to the High Elves. So that fight we were talking about, it looks like Nurgle opted to not even fight that. They just retreat back knowing they have the point. Do they have the points advantage right now? Let's actually look here. So yeah, Nurgle does have a little bit of a points advantage, but even still, they retreat, feeling comfortable on the objective situation, and are going to be just sitting here until they can get some proper reinforcements in. And now we get Forsaken. Now, Forsaken do suffer against the anti-infantry of Rangers, but their 85 armor and their high damage is going to rip the Rangers apart. It'll for sure be favored for the Forsaken, especially if you attack the Marauders in the front right here and then get the Forsaken around the back, you'll massacre those units. Now, this objective owned by Nurgle, but it is in flux right now. The High Elves able to win some fights there, using Imric as well as the White Lines of Grace, with some very, very good brawling there. Keepers of the Flame going to be grinding it out versus the Chaos Warriors and the Demon Spew, and seem to be performing pretty well. Nurgle getting a nice Fecundity here, which is going to be hitting a bunch of units. So it hits Kha'Zix the Befouled, it hits the Exalted Hero, Rotting Riders, a lot of value there. But the Fireborn once again are back. They're knocking on your door, they're persistent. So there they go, nice charge right there. Rot Knights will be able to skewer a couple of them down. The Rot Knights have also probably gotten some very respectable damage, up to 2,400, so they have paid for themselves, which is pretty good. Imric on the high ground does find an opportunity to battle the Demon of Nurgle. Was that a sync animation? Kind of looked like one, but sometimes these things have some... Oh, okay, that looked like a bit of one. He punched that dragon in the face there, so maybe there is a little bit of love here with these sync animations. Another attack. Imric will for sure win this fight, though, with the regrowth active especially. The Noxbringer will get karate chopped, although the Fleshy Abundance, the Witchcraft of Nurgle, able to even that fight out a little bit as the Chaos Sorcerer Lord does move in. And Nurgle Sorcerer Lords are very good fighters on Rot Beasts. They're kind of like mini combat lords, which is very, very nice. Nurgle going to be reinforcing with Pestigors, and the High Elves do actually get Nurgle triple capped right now, but Nurgle with the Forsaken split push were able to push some of the Rangers back, and here you can see the Rangers down trading into the, not down trading, but trading poorly into the Forsaken, while a couple Reaver Cav do come across and try and harry the Marauder Horsemen to turn the tide of the fight. Rangers chasing down these guys. Oh man, I'm loving these builds. Torsen calling in the Giga Chad Swordmasters of Hoeth. Now these guys will dominate the Forsaken in combat. They will bully beat down pretty much all of the Nurgle infantry here with the exception of like a Chosen of Nurgle. So they'll be very good. One thing that Nurgle, a couple things they have could counter them. Bile Trolls could counter them. You could also see Plague Toads, Pox Riders, those type of things. Even the Plague Drones themselves, the Flyers, could do some okay work. But nice play by Nurgle. Using the Curse of the Slug to slow them down, buy a little bit of time for their fighters. We will tune back into that conflict here relatively soon. So fighting on the home objective is always a little bit dangerous, and it looks like the High Elves do eventually lose that fight, but it was a knockdown, drag-out fight here. And the Phoenix Guard, the Keepers of the Flame with the Shield of Thorns, are going to be reflecting some damage back with their dying breaths, but they are able to get some good karate chops on the way out, and I would expect that they probably got some respectable value. 2,500 value and climbing right now, ladies and gentlemen, as they keep that good fight going. On the backside, Elves going to be calling in Illyrian Reavers and reinforcing their home objective with spears. The Mage of Life is still alive. Going to be very important for the High Elves to be able to hold this objective. And now Emmerich's going to be coming over to turn the tide of the fight. And here's what you guys want. Just erect elite infantry with their giant great weapons. Clobbering through these Nurgle infantry. Certainly going to be pretty cost effective for them as they get it done. And Emmerich could come and turn the tide of this fight pretty quickly. And we do see the Swordmasters of Hoeth getting nailed by some sort of shooting. It looks like it's going to be Marauder Horsemen. A decent answer against them for sure. Throwing axes do have really good AP and are good against lead infantry that are unshielded in general. So even the shielded ones take some damage. But yeah, Swordmasters will get this. It's going to take a little bit of time. Emmerich going to be attacking into the Forsaken here. Nurgle definitely could use some, not Nurgle, but the High Elves could use some Reavers to screen these guys out because the Swordmasters are going to be taking a lot of unnecessary damage. And here we do see Nurgle counter-pushing their character core, getting a nice pick right here, guys. Getting the Mage of Life. So the Mage of Life is going to be getting routed. That's 369. Damn thing's fine. It is going to be 3 heroes and an SE here. So that's a lot of capture weight. 369, 12 capture weight from the single entities here. One Spearman going to be trying to hold it valiantly, but it looks like Nurgle probably will find a way to flip this objective. We'll have to see in a moment. Nurgle guts come down here, intercepts the Reavers who are trying to fight off the Pestigores, and overall the High Elf position is most likely going to be lost here. But the Fireborn are back in business. In their first life on this old world, they did get 2,000 value, which is a pretty nice run for them. High Elves able to dominate this point using the Swordmasters, and they're going to be very tough to uproot for Nurgle. So Nurgle's probably going to have to start playing Objective 3 for the rest of the game or avoid the Swordmasters until they can get some proper AP out. Granted, the Nurgle characters, Kha'Zix the Befouled, could probably, do very well against Swordmasters, so I guess it's not the end of the world, and the Rot Beast could also do fine. Fireborn coming in there, folding up some Furies and getting ready to engage against the Chaos Warriors, and it does look like the forces of the High Elves were able to hold on to the point. Rotting Riders going to be getting the fat sausage in the face here as the Fireborn do move down, and with Emmerich they are going to be able to banish these foul beasts back to the abyss from whence they came. And they are mortal, so not the warp, but I mean you could hardly, those things are hardly mortal. I mean they've got some funny stuff going on for sure. Moving back and across, Fireborn now going to be surging up to the objective here. Nurgle is threatening the capture. Pestigores will be a very nice ground-based force for Nurgle here. They have a good armor piercing, so can punch through some of the armor that the Fireborn have. And the 3 characters, quite a menace. And it looks like the Mage of Life did survive. That's pretty massive, and it is able to get a heal off on the Fireborn, or Shield of Thorns, which is very cool to see the damage reflection being used. I wish there was like a metric to show how much it actually does, but even still, this fight's pretty pitched here. But with the surround, I think when the Pestigores break, the Nurgle forces could start to suffer because Emmerich and the Fireborn will be there remaining, and they are going to be very good against all these units. Nurgle thinking about playing this side, but with the Swordmasters there, it's going to be tricky, and we do see some Illyrian Reavers coming across to chase down these skirmishers, but Nurgle could just overload this objective with bodies, so, just throw a bunch of trash at the Swordmasters, knowing you're going to lose the fight, but just trying to wrestle the point for enough time to win the game. I mean, very much an option that is on the table. Swordmasters chasing the Frolickers Bubonic, going to be going after the Nurglings here, while the Rangers are going to be embroiled in combat versus the Furies, and the Rangers should be able to win that fight. Back here, though, we do see some messiness as the Nockbringer does get karate chopped. This objective belongs to the High Elves, but it is, going back and forth here, but it looks like this could be the turning of the tide that could give the High Elves the game. We do see the Nockbringer going down. Emmerich is just given the business here to the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, because the buffering did fail. The Pestigores did break. And yeah, man, Emmerich going hard, the Fireborn going hard. Very much been a game that's been back and forth here, but it looks like the High Elves finally getting a very pivotal fight here that is going to be most likely taking down at least one of these characters. And if the Sorcerer Lord goes down, it's going to be rough. Swordmasters of Hoeth on the side as well, going to be able to karate chop the Frolickers Bubonic. And let's look at the points, though. High Elves only have 1 objective. Nurgle was able to get 2. And they do have a lot of shit here. And the throwing axes have been able to chip quite a bit of HP off the Swordmasters, which might soften them up enough that the overwhelming numbers of Nurglites here could take them down. We'll have to see. So the Elves are going to need another objective here if they want to win the game, and it looks like the 2 Rangers going to be surging here. So Nurgle in a position that's very, very scary with their characters getting Karate Chop, Fireborn being very healthy here, and Imric going to be thinking about landing, but changes his mind at the last second and is going to be flying elsewhere on the board. I don't know about flying over here. I think that's a mistake. This objective is much closer. I think taking Imric over here and just using him to terror out these guys off and then steal that would be the play. Because it's not quite a situation where you need a triple cap. So this could be a game-losing play here for the High Elves, in my opinion. And that's one of the things about domination. There's a lot of finesse with decision-making and where you're going to be going. That's my boy, Torreson. All right, that's the right choice. We'll see if it pays off. I mean, of course, you could still lose the game. Nurgle could hold this objective even with Imric being sent over there, but I think that is the correct play. All right, so Swordmaster is able to chop through those guys, and Nurgle still overwhelming quite a bit here. And are they going to be reinforcing? Nope, looks like Nurgle's going to be sending everything it has to the home objective here. As the 2 Rangers do arrive, Nurgle does have the capture weight advantage, but Imric should be able to come in and just bully these Pestivores pretty badly, while the Rangers will need, Lord of Dragons is nice. It does lower the stats of those Chaos Warriors, but Imric is going to certainly need to carry this one. Now, Fireborn able to dispatch those characters, so the Exalted Hero as well as Kha'Zix getting bullied by the anti-large Fireborn. Now the Fireborn going to be heading over here as Imric tries to chew these guys down, but Nurgle might be able to just rat this game out. I mean, they have a lot over here still holding that objective. 3 infantry units, which can kite those Swordmasters a little bit. And over here, Nurgle is going to be Helm's Deeping it pretty damn hard, and the High Elves are running out of time. They need to get an objective relatively quickly. Fireborn coming in, and now the rest of the forces, I mean, maybe send the 2 skirmishers over here and just leave the Spearmen on the back objective. Imric is going to get through these units eventually. The Chaos Warriors are probably going to get terror routed since their Lord is dead. Their leadership is going to be very fickle. And baseline Chaos Warriors are not immune to psychology here. So these guys are going to get terror routed in Uno, Dos, and Trace, probably. They'll terror out. Usually I get that right, but not today, says the God of Death. Forsaken charging down the hill. Capture weight still belongs to the forces of Nurgle, and Nurgle's getting to the point where, they're probably going to be able to win on just the one objective on the far side here. High Elves are going to be contesting that one as well, as we do see the Pyramid Company coming across. Fury's going to get behind them and probably rear charge them, or use the Furies to intercept reinforcements, but honestly, rear charging Pyramid would probably help you win that fight. And now the High Elves are going to start getting the capture weight here. We do see the Light Cavalry coming in. They are going to be attacking into the Forsaken, and High Elves are getting that muscle in there. These Forsaken are going to turn and run, and that objective is going to be flipping very quickly, but just barely too late. Nurgle can basically win on one here. We do see the High Elves coming in with a couple Ranger reinforcements, and the Swordmaster is coming back in here. Pyramid Company, pretty Giga Chad fighters. They have an insane stat line and really, really good AP and armor sundering to boot, so that's going to be nice against like Demon Spew type units. So that objective does go to the High Elves, but man, just barely. Nurgle holding on and able to get the W with the classic Nurgle tactics of swarming the objectives with lots of stinky boys and getting it done. Very good back and forth game. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I thought it was an absolute nail biter of a match. I'm trying to think about the builds. Yeah, that Nurgle build is solid. I think having 3 SCs to deal with Imric and an Oxbringer to deal with Skirmish, and then just bringing in your superior infantry to win those fights is a good recipe for victory. And looking at Torreson's army, I don't know much about High Elves these days. Rangers didn't do terribly. And yeah, overall, not a bad build. 2,500 value on the halberds. What's not to love? Close game. Could have gone either way. GG to these mighty Chads. Love seeing the Swordmasters in action. Always a fun time. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for tonight. And thank you to Ridley and Torreson for the great replay. Cheers.